When I was 17 years old, and I remember this distinctly, it was a long time ago, I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, and I was standing in a chapel on St. Charles Avenue, and behind me in Loyola Chapel at Loyola University, behind me was this great big stained glass window like this, and the light was coming through the stained glass, you know, one of those typical kinds of angelic-like things you could imagine. But what I felt was a calling to a deeper life. I had a boyfriend, George, and George wanted 11 kids. I'm finishing high school now, and I'm thinking, do I want to marry George and have 11 kids? Is there another alternative? And my alternative was deeper life equals convent, because I'd gone to Catholic schools all my life. And in New Orleans, if you didn't go to Catholic schools, you probably didn't get a good education because the support of public schools was so bad. So most people went to Catholic schools. It didn't matter if you were Catholic or not. If you wanted an education, that's what you did. And so my interpretation was become a nun, which I did. Actually, technically not a nun. A nun is cloistered. A sister is someone who interacts with other people in education, etc. So I became a Dominican sister, and I taught all the chemistries at Dominican College in New Orleans except for physical chemistry. 11 years go by, the first 6 of which I was gung-ho, I was going to be perfect. But as those last years came by, I started to feel more and more restricted. I started to feel that if I'd stay, I'd be the facade, I'd look like a sister, but inside I was going to dry up and die. I had to listen. And it was really hard to listen to that because the Mother Superior was essentially telling me that I was turning my back on God. So I had to believe was what I felt within me, which was this urge to a more expansive life, to a bigger life. Was that true? Or did I have to stay and die inside so I would not turn my back on God? Well, as you can tell from my standing here, I left the convent. And it was the hardest decision I've ever had to make in my life. But it was the most liberating decision I ever made in my life. Because of the fact I knew that was the listening I'm talking about. It's listening to the deep knowing that you have. And you can differentiate this kind of listening from when you are making an argument for something. Oh, I ought to do this than this because here are all the pros. Well, you know, our cortexes are really great. As a neuroscientist, I can tell you it's very powerful. And I bet you that you could make up an equally powerful story for either side. And that's how you know when you're listening to your head and you're not listening to your being. When you listen to your head, you could say, oh, I should do this, and or I should do this. Oh my, they're equal. Well, they're not equal. Not really. And so the listening is to the depth of your being. The listening is to a place of knowing, not a place of making up an argument for why it should be.